Today on the Standouts, we have entrepreneur, commercial real estate extraordinaire, live from Castle Rivani, Robert Rivani. It doesn't matter what you do for a living. Standing out requires a high level of creativity, a healthy dose of ambition, and sheer grit. This is the Standouts, a show where we discuss, explore, and strategize what it takes to achieve the extraordinary. It's about finding your edge and learning how to leverage that for your own success. I'm your host, Aaron Grushow. Get ready to be inspired to blaze your own path. Today on the Standouts, we have entrepreneur and well-known face in the world of commercial real estate, Robert Rivani. Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Of course. This podcast is all about standing out, doing things differently, how to separate yourself from the rest in such a saturated world. And I think you are a prime example of someone doing just that.
Because of the beard and the mohawk?
Exactly. No, you have a great look to you.
I appreciate it.
When I think people think commercial real estate, they don't necessarily immediately head towards someone who's building a big personal brand for themselves and trying to stand out and, reinvent the wheel. No, I'm not saying that you're necessarily reinventing the wheel, but I think you're doing things a bit differently, and it's clearly shown in your success. I mean, at 33 years old, 500 million?
500 million in deals.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah, and look, to your point, I don't even think it's recreating the wheel. I think it's creating the wheel.
Yeah.
Commercial real estate's not sexy. It's
Right.
not fun.
Yeah.
Residential is a lot more fun and a lot more, when people come out of school, like, I want to be a realtor or a broker and I want to sell homes.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone comes and says, I want to sell shopping centers
No.
or I want to redo a property with Walmart and Home Depot, and it's just not, the fun thing. And part of my excitement and why I'm doing more of this, the stuff in marketing is to explore something to people that, hey, there is another genre of real estate that you can do, that can be exciting, that can be fun. And you can be yourself doing it too, because in commercial real estate, everyone's usually suit, tie, have to act a certain way, but I'm this guy, Middle Eastern, mohawk, beard, have fun with it, do crazy things on social media, and it's exciting.
Considering a career in real estate, but need to do it based off of your schedule? Study at your own pace from a laptop, tablet, or even your smartphone. It truly does not get more convenient than this, and at such an affordable price. Just visit realestateu.com, that's you as in the letter U.com, and choose your state's licensing course. And be sure to use the discount code STANDOUTS at checkout for 20% off. Real Estate U offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can start taking your licensing course as soon as you sign up. So don't delay, head over to realestateu.com and use the discount code STANDOUTS. Make sure to share it with others eager to kickstart their real estate career so they can save 20% off as well.
I think you're a really creative guy.
Appreciate that.
How do you translate that creativity into commercial real estate?
In the beginning, you had to start at the bare bones of just trying to make money, and that was like the focus for any person that's coming out in this industry is like, okay, I want to figure out my way of going about it. So I followed the tune of everybody others to how to build real estate, but it was after a point where, especially in the Miami market where I'm very much so focused now, it's like letting my personality speak through my properties and redevelopment. So like when you look at this room that we're in, what I call the jungle room, this was my test fit kitchen, let's call it, for one of my properties, Wynwood Jungle. So I designed this room and I'm like, oh, this looks great. Now let's put it into a commercial property.
Yeah.
And one thing that's really important for my industry that hasn't been done for a while is the whole social media effect, bringing in attention for a property for people to get excited about it and come shop there. And what I mean by that, when I did this room, when I said, okay, I'm going to be spending, this room cost me about $100,000 in fake flowers. And I said, look, I'm going to take this to a shopping center that was about 2-3 times the size of this. And it cost me close to $400,000 in fake florals that I put into commercial property. Like, that's absurd. People do paint, some lipstick, and I wanted something different. But why did I want something different? I'm like, imagine all the people that will come that will just put up their phone and take a video of it and share on Instagram or on TikTok or on YouTube or whatever it is, that it's just going to go viral.
Yeah.
And lucky have it, it went viral. And now we get almost 500 people a day coming through just a normal property, taking videos and sharing it with their friends and families, and it's helped our customers, our tenants, 30-40%. Because ultimately, unlike residential, I'm trying to make my tenants successful. So whatever I could do to be successful in a property to make my tenants more successful, it's just success all around for everybody.
Yeah.
So that's where I kind of collaborated the two different worlds of commercial real estate with social media and marketing.
You mentioned virality and like telling a story about your specific property. I think that's really important, in sort of all industries, all businesses, if we're able to capture attention, because ultimately I think that's what it's all about, right? Capturing that attention.
More attention means more sales.
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
And the better, like, people are like, well, why do you care if your tenants do better? I'm like, well, one, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You want your tenants to be successful so they can pay your rent.
Yeah.
But imagine if a tenant sales doubles. Will their rent double that they can pay the landlord? Probably. If they're doing exponentially better, that means you do exponentially better. So if you can get more eyeballs at the property and make that investment for your tenants to be more successful, and that ends up being more successful for you, it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest problem with a lot of people when it comes to redevelopment of projects is they always have the me first mentality versus my tenants first.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work when you're trying to be, uberly successful and try to break records for lease agreements in the commercial world, especially in a world that once upon a time everyone's like, we were having retail destruction and an apocalypse and retail's failing, and that was all nonsense. And we're proving time and time again, if you have the ability to reinvent yourself and stand out from the other 100 retail properties, that you can be the game changer in the industry, and that's what my brand Blackline is.
I love that. I'm curious your process for sourcing these opportunities. Do you look at potential projects as opportunities to really stand out? Like, can you be different undergoing some sort of development at this type of property? Like, how can I make this stand out from the rest? Is that part of your thought process when you're looking for these opportunities?
For sure. If the property doesn't have the ability to stand out or have the ability to be different, typically there's no, if the property had failed for a reason in the past, why do I think I'm going to be the one to be able to come in and be more successful with it? For example, I bought a property in New Jersey for $50 million a year and a half ago or so. And it's a super regional power center. The property was falling apart. The anchor tenants were leaving. And I told myself, okay, well, why wasn't this property successful? Well, the owner didn't spend any money in improvements, didn't spend any money for marketing, didn't make the property look appealing where customers are going to want to come. So I took a modified version of my floral design. Like, you can't take something that's sexy and trendy in South Florida and in Miami area and take that to like Flanders, New Jersey, where the property is.
Right.
But I'm like, let me give it a little bit of flair.
Yeah.
And if you can imagine, I go to the local municipality and I'm like, and this area is like full of snow and it's a typical American city where things are just very flat for the most part.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're going to do fake florals and we're going to have twinkle lights on the building. We're going to make it sexy and we're going to make it fun. And it was a huge gamble, like, because these typical corporations want a very cookie cutter kind of facade and look. And when we rolled it out with renderings, we got the biggest buzz of attention from national chains. We ended up signing 4 national chain, 30,000 square foot boxes in less than a year.
That's amazing.
And it was like, did this actually work? Like, no way. They actually went for it and they went against the norm. And these big corporations are starting to realize that they need to attract the younger customers too.
Totally.
They want those customers. Those are customers spending money, and you need to get it from everybody if you want to be successful. And you see, like, they're paying a lot of influencers, these big corporations, to do things on TikTok to support the brand and to promote the brand. And that's kind of like merging the two was a gamble for an institutional developer like myself that's trying to break the norm. But it ended up working out. And I think, like any developer, you sometimes have to take calculated risks if you want to be next level in it.
Definitely. You're putting a lot of effort into growing your own personal brand. Do you see that being effective in commercial real estate? Why is that so important to you?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think like any brand that you name, one of the big brands, like when you associate a brand, you associate a certain level of quality and a certain level of excitement when it comes to the asset.
Yep.
So for example, in Miami, if I'm buying a restaurant building, everyone's like, well, that's going to be the next hotspot. I've signed, Delilah, Gecko, all these different brands that people got excited about. And like, well, if Robert's going to create another one of these, then that develops a hype in the area. So whenever I bought this, this entire street block in Miami Beach in south of 5th, we ended up signing Catch, this restaurateur Gaia from Dubai, and Philippe Chow from New York. And I created synergy by saying, look, Blackline's going to buy this block. We're going to make it sexy. We're going to make it fun. And everyone bought into that vision. Now, if there wasn't a person behind the brand that people could believe and trust in, would that have been done? Maybe, maybe not. It's been empty for 8 years, but as soon as I bought it, I filled it up. So I think there's definitely value when you have somebody that you have faith in behind the development that says, look, I trust Robert's going to put his best foot forward and get this done. And the biggest way to get exposure to that is social media and to be able to show that. Like, I didn't have a public social media account up until like 18 months ago.
Yeah.
I didn't see the value, and why would you want to be a big, social media person when you're trying to lease up small shop space in Wisconsin or Chicago? It just wasn't as valuable. When you're getting to these higher ticket, more profiled properties, it's very, very important to have that kind of that brand recognition when it comes to the market.
Definitely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, honestly. I'm curious about your upbringing and sort of what led to who you are today. I know you sold a shoe company when you were a teenager for
Yeah.
6 figures. I'd love to hear a bit more about that. How did that come into fruition?
Yeah, so like every kid, well, most kids, you have this hustler mentality.
Yeah.
And I didn't grow up wealthy, and I wanted to make as much money as I could. But before I wanted to make as much money as I could, I wanted to be the cool kid in school and have Jordans and all these different sneakers, but I couldn't really afford to own 10 at a time. So,
Yeah.
when I'd go and buy them in a store, I'd go look at what they'd be on for sale online, and you'd be like, well, I bought them for 150, but they're going for 250 because they're just rare. So I'm like, wait, this is a business. What if I just bought 2 of them, and then if I could make $100 on one, then the shoe that I bought only cost me $50.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, there's something there. So I just slowly but surely started buying shoes and flipping them on eBay. And after a while, the flipping game became really popular, so you couldn't buy more than 2 at a time. So you'd have to like hire friends. So I'd say, okay, well, if this shoe can make me $100, but I pay my friend $50 to stay. Do you know like when people would stay overnight on Naked Town? Like
Yeah.
you sleep on the floor the whole 9 yards.
Tents,
So we do that.
yeah.
Tents, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, yeah.
So I pay my boy $50. I'm like, okay, cool. You're gonna stay overnight with me. I'm gonna give you 50, and then I'm gonna keep the other 50. And then there was a point where I was making almost $10,000 to $15,000 a month off this, just flipping shoe after shoe after shoe, until one day some guy's like, hey, I see all the shoes you're selling all the time, and I would keep my personalized collection. I would be the sneakerhead that would stack them all over my bedroom. I'd have them on my bed, and I'd lick the bottom of the soles to make sure people knew they were authentic. Like I was like dedicated as into it. And one guy's like, hey, I'm gonna buy your entire collection for north of 6 figures, and I'm like, how am I really going to give this up? I think I was 18 or 19 at the time, like 150, 200,000 bucks. I'm like, all right, it's time to move on.
Yeah.
And that was the shoe game. That was the shoe industry.
I love that. I'm curious what you learned from that experience, and if you still apply certain principles that went into selling those shoes into your, real estate business today.
For sure. I mean, it's more of like the core principles of understanding business. Like the simple thing of saying, I'm going to hire my friend and pay him $50 so I can still make more money.
Yeah.
And I hired more and more people at the time to stay overnight because they just, being able to expand. So you learn some management. You learn and appreciate where you come from. Like sleeping on a sidewalk in the cold ass nights overnight was not fun.
Yeah.
It's miserable. But you appreciate those times, and you have a much more importance for the value of your money. I don't raise money for my company. I don't go to outside investors or do like this online crowdsourcing. It's all my money, and I know what my money is worth and where I had to come from to make it. So having those feelings of when you're struggling to make it to now, it's like you have a better sense and comfort of who you want to be and how to spend it.
Yeah.
So look, I think entrepreneurship is extremely important, and that's something I tell my wife when we want to raise kids. Like, I almost want to put them in a hustle. Like, you want to make money, then you're going to clean your room, you're going to do this, and I'm going to pay you, because it just teaches you the time value of money and the importance of working for something versus just like, here's $1,000, go do whatever you want. Because that will apply when you want to have your own business, when you hire your employees, when you want to remodel a property. You have to, like, don't get me wrong, like whenever I redevelop a house or a property, and you know this probably better than anyone, you can't just go spend whatever you want on a property. If not, the investment's not going to make sense.
Right.
So it's how you use your money is very, very important. I think that in the shoe business, when margins are $50 a shoe, is to be very tight with how you spend it.
Definitely. No, I really appreciate that. And I'm curious what advice you would give to someone who's looking to start an entrepreneurial venture or getting into commercial real estate. Anything off the top of your mind that you would, share immediately?
Look, the first thing I say is do not because I have people on Instagram, I have probably 1,000 kids a week reaching out, what should I be able to do with my first thing? And I'm like, don't get bought into these things, these online gurus, and they're like, just get into real estate, buy your first thing. No.
Yeah.
Go work for somebody, even if it's for free. Go be an intern. Go obtain knowledge. And no offense to the residential world, residential is a lot easier than commercial.
Yeah.
You run normal comps in an area, price per square foot, what it could sell for, this, that, the other. When you're in commercial, you have to worry about so many legal things, environmental concerns, tenant leases, what the rules are of those tenant leases, what neighboring properties do to affect your property. Like, there's so much that goes into it. So when people are like, hey, I got $1 million, I want to invest, I'm like, look, slow your roll. Go learn from somebody, take an internship, or work as a broker or a property manager to be the person you want to be, because that is what I did when I first started. I was a bookkeeper. I answered phones. Then I went to property management. Then I went to leasing. And then when you start to develop your knowledge base in every single aspect of the company, that's the best way you can be the best version of yourself when it comes to being a developer.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people on the younger side who want to just go dive headfirst into something me included. But learning from mentors and people who have done it before you is such a critical factor in I think one's success. Who have you looked up to throughout, your experience doing commercial real estate and just being an entrepreneurial person in general? Who are some mentors you've had and people you've looked up to?
It's crazy. None.
Yeah.
Because when you look into commercial real estate, there's not a face.
Right.
There's never been a face. In residential, you have so many brokers that are like, this guy's just badass. He's crushing it. Like, when do you hear of like a commercial real estate broker or a commercial real estate developer being like that guy?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still in the industry, and I don't know many people that are like, well, this guy's just, because usually it's run by institutions or these big REITs
Right.
that control it, and there's never really a face. It's like a board or a company or a public company. And that was a struggle, because you always ask yourself, like, I wish I had somebody I could look up to, like, he did this, he did that, learn from his playbook. And it's like, really wasn't. So, I mean, like, for me, it was just, I would look at people that were the best in their game.
Yeah.
Like, whether it was Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, and the work ethic. That's like the biggest thing that I looked into people, was like the work ethic. And I think that's one of the biggest fundamental issues with the younger generation right now.
Right.
You want quick success.
Yeah.
You want quick hits. Like,
Totally.
I'm going to put $1 million in crypto and be a billionaire tomorrow. Like, you, dude.
Yep.
Okay? Yeah, maybe the 1 in a million will do that, but you
Yeah.
have to actually struggle. You have to, like, it's going to take years. Real estate is a long-term play. It's one of the oldest professions in the world.
Yeah.
And you're not just going to be an instantaneous millionaire. It
Yeah.
doesn't work like that. You can scale quickly, but you need to learn the basics. You need to put in some serious hard.
Definitely. Yeah, I've heard you say once, anything that comes quick or easy, it's not going to last very long.
Name me one thing in your life that comes easy that ends up having given you endless happiness from it. Nothing. It's like all the things that have lasted a long time, owning a home like this, or my companies. I've worked my ass off for 15 years to get there.
Yeah.
And you have to put in the blood, sweat, and tears. If not, it's not going to last.
Yeah.
Unless you got really lucky and bought Bitcoin or some shit, which if you did, I'm jealous. But that's, it's the truth.
Yeah. No, and I sort of apply that same principle to, content creation and social media strategy.
Look at you. Look,
Yeah.
why are you doing what you want to find a different angle in a business?
Yeah.
And that's what I did. It's
Yeah.
everybody that becomes rich or creates inventions, they're just finding a better angle.
Yeah, but it doesn't come overnight. It takes so
Right.
much trial and error, so much exploration,
Right.
And consistency.
For sure.
You cannot grow online without being consistent. And I think you're
100%.
doing a great job at being consistent. But there's so many people who get a little taste because, platforms like TikTok and Instagram Reels give that little dopamine hit and try and, keep people involved by giving them, a little bit of a platform at times. You get a video with 10,000 views and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Right.
But realistically, like, that's not super valuable. That's not going to last.
And
In
that's
order to
something
create
that-
something, you got to do it over and over.
Yeah, and the biggest, fundamental issue with a lot of these people because it's crazy. Like, I have people that DM me that have millions of followers, and you think like, well, they must be super successful.
Yeah.
They're not.
No.
Because you're getting views, but what are you converting that to? How are you converting that to money? Yeah, you can get brand deals, you can get that stuff. But if you're trying to be a 100 millionaire, a billionaire, there's very, very few people that are making content creation into a $1 billion industry for themselves as an individual.
100%.
It's
Yeah.
very difficult.
I'm not one of those people. I'm trying to figure out how to get there.
Right.
But I think this podcast is the next step for me. I think authenticity and value-driven content is super important. And I, critiquing myself, have not done enough of that. So I hope to really provide a lot more value to my audience through this and be a bit more authentic
Be yourself.
and real. Yeah.
Look, I struggled with being myself for so many years because you're always scared of perception of your peers.
Right.
Like, what if I walk into a listing or for me at a development, and I'm sitting there with a bunch of tenants and I'm the guy with the mohawk and the beard and I look the way I do, and then everyone's in a suit and tie. And I was like, it was bad for a while. It's like, who the Joker? Is he serious? Is his dad rich? Like, who gave him the money?
Right.
How dare he? And it got to a point where it's like, I just don't give a shit anymore. And I think people appreciate that. A lot of people are scared sometimes to be themselves because of what others have to say. And I just came to the point where, like, I just don't give a shit anymore. And accept me for who I am and watch me by my results and appreciate my results versus judging me on appearance.
Yeah.
And frankly, it is what it is at this point. And I think social media helps further, implicate that to really show what you've done. Because a lot of people talk a big game, but if you can prove it day in and day out, if you're coming here and adding value for people, that's what's most important and what people appreciate.
Totally. Yeah, I completely agree. So you mentioned you've only been putting a lot of effort into your content creation for, a little over a year now. What was, the inspiration behind that? What was the catalyst behind, okay, I want to create more of a, personal brand online and create content?
Great question. A couple different aspects. So like I mentioned earlier, in commercial real estate, it was never a sexy, fun, public social media thing. No one really cared. But whenever I, made a very big pivot, I almost sold half of my portfolio during COVID and made a pivot because I was worried about what the economy was going to happen during COVID. And I happened to stumble upon this city that, I ended up falling in love with now that I moved to, which is Miami. And Miami is a very social media geared city.
Yeah.
And, you'd see a lot of people posting about going out to events and parties and having a good time. And the sector that I got into was hospitality. So something just clicked where I'm like, okay, what if I can start leasing these properties and showing my properties as fun and exciting things, and maybe that will get tenants' attention because they could think this is the next hotspot.
Yeah.
And, call it luck, call it madness, it worked out. I'm probably the largest hospitality developer now in Miami, and what people really look forward to is this whole, like, what's Robert's next thing? What's he going to show on social media? And a lot of the times now, for leasing purposes, which is what it turned into the most part, is a funnel for I don't need brokers all the time now for some deals. Someone just hit me up and say, Rob, I love this property, I want it. Or people will say, hey, look at what Robert did at that corner that was so ugly. And a developer would hit me up and say, hey, let's collaborate or let's partner. I'll sell you my ground floor condo retail so that way you can make my apartment building above me sexier.
Yeah.
So it was a business funnel for me for getting deals. And the exposure of like, well, what if somebody in Texas sees my social media account and has a property that I'm not thinking about, that he wants me to come collaborate on, that makes money for me. Well, how am I going to get to that person? Social media. Like, there's just no other way. Like the grassroots marketing of pounding on the pavement or just putting up stuff on articles online, it's not nearly as intriguing. You can't get nearly as many eyeballs because not only do you have to get the eyeballs of that person that could bring the business, but what if their son or their brother's watching something like,
exactly,
look at this guy. You should link up with this guy. Like, I've had so many collaborations by, you should link up with this guy because I saw him on Instagram or something. And that's what it is. It's eyeballs.
Yeah. You just never know who's watching your content.
You never know. And then I had a little birdie in my ear, my wife, who I give a lot of my success and thanks to for pushing me. Because like, Rob, you're polarizing. Like, you don't realize, like, you have a polarizing figure. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm just a guy. Like, what are you talking about? It's like, no, you need to do this. And it worked out great. It could have gone really bad, right? Because you can expose yourself and people. Like, don't get me wrong. I have people talking shit about me all the time. Like, Daddy's money. He looks like a buffoon. He looks like this guy from Street Fighter. But whatever the fuck it is, like, and it's cool. Haters are gonna hate.
How do you overcome that? Negative talk and.
I let my bank account talk for me. I let my success talk for me.
There you go.
Like, haters are gonna hate,
Yeah.
and you need to use the haters as fuel.
Yeah.
Like, haters are gonna want to see your demise, and it's great. It's like, look, talk all the shit you want while you're sitting at your couch, watching TV and getting fat and doing nothing with your life. Like, and that's kind of like the mentality I have. Like, if you're doing good work, let your work speak for itself. I'm not there bashing and retweeting or whatever with people and going at it with them because you're bored. Like, I let my work and the fan base that is supporting, and there's so many people that, like, Robert, you're my inspiration, being, in your 30s, young 30s, because most of these real estate guys are in their 50s and 60s. And it's like, you're in your 30s, you're being yourself. Thank you for showing me the path. I want to do it in my own way, and that gives me inspiration. So I pay attention to that, not the nonsense background noise.
Yeah. Have you ever, seriously questioned yourself? Like, am I doing the right thing here? Am I heading in the right direction with content or commercial real estate? I'm just curious, some speed bumps or anything that made you have a second thought and sort of like how you overcame those.
Yeah, look, I question myself every single day of my life.
Yeah.
I feel like every entrepreneur needs to question themselves to evolve. Because if you don't evolve, you'll die. It's Darwin's theory. And that's one of my main ways of success, is making sure that I pay attention that, am I getting stagnant? Am I getting dull? Am I being the boring guy? Am I not always trying to evolve? And for me, that, questioning yourself, like, am I providing enough support for my team to be the best team that they can be, so that way I can be the best person that I can be? Am I remodeling the properties the best way for the community so that they'll love it? Am I reaching out to the community enough? You always have to ask yourself these questions in order to keep being the better version of yourself. And look, there's roadblocks all the time. There's tons of times where I've made mistakes. I'm like, God damn it. And like, instead of getting hard on myself, which I do for the most part, you learn from those mistakes quickly.
Yeah.
Very quickly. And then like for example, I bought this property in San Diego. Go on a tangent for a second. I didn't realize that I should get a certain environmental report to test for it being an Indian burial site. Like, how the f am I supposed to know to test for it? Like, you'll test for your standard, contamination issue, this, that, the other, but it was an Indian burial site. And there's like arrowheads or stuff on the side. I had no idea. Come to find out that you have to go through special testing. They'll take a year, cost me over $500,000. And I had to pay an Indian reservation to come on site, pay them $10,000 a month just to monitor the construction of the work. This whole debacle cost me $2 million extra on the project. Almost wiped out my entire profit margin. I was questioning everything that I thought I was as a developer. That how'd you miss this? How'd you not catch this? All these things just went through my head.
Yeah.
But what I learned from it is that you're only human. You're gonna make mistakes. It's just don't make the mistakes twice.
Yeah.
And that's the key. Make the mistake once, and don't be afraid to ask questions. So like every time when it comes to buying properties, well, now I have an entire legal team. So I learned from that mistake real fast. I have 2 attorneys on staff now. So anytime there's anything kind of questioning, now I have my people now that will say, okay, watch out for this, watch out for that. Because if you think you're going to be an entrepreneur in your company and you're going to be the smartest at every single position, you're a moron.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing where people are, I can do it better than anyone. Well, no, that you're just an idiot and not hiring the right people. So I hire people that are smarter than me in every single position to make sure they watch out for things that they've been practicing for 20 years or 30 years. Because I'm not going to know certain things about the law or like this situation.
Yeah.
So, learn from your mistakes. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And don't be afraid to hire the right team. I keep on press that having the right team is the most important thing to create the future for yourself. Because if you think it'd be a one-man show and become a billionaire, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, I think you're totally correct. And I think it's a testament to who you are and you being sort of humble and recognizing you don't have all the answers. You don't know it all. So why not surround yourself with people who may have, more expertise in one thing that you may not, fully understand. I think that's, every entrepreneur should take that into account to whatever they're building.
Something that's scary when you say question yourself, and it's something I even questioned today because we're thinking about adding 3 more team members that a month ago I hadn't even thought about, is, having that balance of when you're an entrepreneur and the money's coming out of your bank account to hire a staff, where you're like, can I really afford this extra $100,000? Can I afford this marketing person? Can I afford this, this president of the company to handle day to day? You really have to think about taking a step back and saying, if I don't hire these people, I'll never be able to grow, and I'm getting in my own way.
Yeah.
And don't be penny foolish, make a little bit less, and especially if you're trying for growth. We did $250 million in deals last year. And it's my own shop. I don't raise money. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to do that kind of growth, why am I not going to spend an extra couple $100,000 on a couple other employees to help that team's growth? And I still struggle with that. It's like, do I really need another person? Can I just do it myself? Yeah. And then you have that mentality in your head, but I'll begin to tell you, you will exhaust yourself, you will burn out. And that's the one thing in real estate where you see a lot of real estate guys are like, we get gray fast, we get exhausted, you get tired, because it's always a constant grind. It's never 9 to 5. We don't have a 9 to 5 job.
No, it never stops.
24/7. Yeah. So whatever you can do to be the best version of yourself and give the things that are probably below your pay grade, let's call it, to other people, that's the best advice I can give to any entrepreneur.
Yeah, no, I think that's smart. And yeah, someone like me who's newer in the luxury real estate space, trying to make it, there's a lot of money on the table. And sometimes I'm confident enough to be like, okay, I can handle this transaction on myself, or I can, secure this listing on myself. But I recognize there are people who have been doing it a lot longer than me, i.e. my team leader, like Aaron Kerman, one of the biggest agents in the world. Yeah, I'd lose half of my commission if I brought him on, but I'm trying to, remember that I'm still new at this, and 50% of something is much better than 0% of.
I have my saying, and I heard a very good saying that I say all the time: pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Yeah. So keep making money and keep always making money versus being greedy, and it's better to have a slice of a watermelon than a grape.
I like that.
And it's the truth, because would I rather have 10% of a $5 billion company or 100% of a $100 million company? And it's there's only so much you can go and scale on your own. It's just that difficult, especially in an industry that's not a tech industry like ours. Our shit's slow paced. You want to close a deal, it's going to take 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. Yeah. And it takes time. Yeah. And it's a tough struggle.
Definitely. switching gears, I'm super curious. What has your worst investment been?
God, that's a good question. The worst investment has ever been that property that I got my ass handed to me because of it was a bad situation. Yeah, I put like $10 million into a deal and I ended up making like $1 million. And
Wow.
it sucked.
Yeah.
It was bad. Thankfully, I've never lost money on a single deal in my entire life.
That's amazing.
So I like to keep that track record.
Yeah.
But that one it wasn't only the money, it was the pain and the suffering that you had to go through.
Emotionally
and just,
draining.
it was emotionally draining.
Yeah.
Like, wiped me out. Like, and those are the tough ones. But again, like, I'm thankful for it because when you learn things and you obtain that knowledge and don't make mistakes again, it changes the game.
100%. So what has been your most lucrative investment this far?
So like, what, on cash purchase price, total dollar amount? God, the most lucrative investment. Well, I'll start off from the beginning of time. Whenever I first got into commercial real estate, I put $700,000 down on a deal. It was in Texas. This was back in like the early 2010s and stuff, whenever banks were just handing away properties. They're like, Robert, this property's suffering. We need someone to take it over, take it off our books. I'm like, cool, I'll buy it. I put $700,000 down. It was a $3.7 million purchase price. I spent about $1 million and change on it and sold it for like $15 million. So I made $10 million on like a $700,000 investment. And it took me like 2.5 years.
Wow.
So that was like the biggest like cash on cash home run I'd probably ever hit in my entire life.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but those days are far gone. But no, like, look, the shopping center world is very lucrative. Thank God I've made a very comfortable living. And I love my industry more because it's very hard. It's a barrier of entry for a lot of people to get into.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I feel very bad for you residential guys. It's like everybody sprouts up one day, I want to be a broker. And all the shows that came out, everyone's like a broker and this and that.
They
It's
have
like,
no idea.
when was the last show you saw about like commercial real estate leasing and sales?
Yeah.
So.
No, totally. And that's what I respect about you is, as you've mentioned multiple times, commercial real estate, not the most sexy thing out there. Residential real estate, definitely more sexy. But, you know, you are making commercial real estate sexy.
Thank you.
Like, you truly are doing that.
Be careful. I'm coming for residential. I got a house on Carbon Beach I'm flipping soon.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, that's what drew me to residential is I felt as if there was more room for creativity. You know?
Look, so like I said, I'm building and designing a house right now. It's $40 million on Carbon Beach.
Yeah.
And I used to talk a lot of shit to people in residential. Like, you're developing a house. Like, give me a break. It's a joke. And I bought the house because of a dare. My friend,
Did you?
I bought a $20 million house because my friend dared me to.
No way.
My friend said, you are incapable of doing a house redevelopment. You won't be successful and you won't make money. 3 weeks later, I bought a $20 million house on Carbon Beach.
Yeah, I mean, beachfront property is as difficult as they.
My God!
Dealing with coastal commission.
Coastal commission, this issue, that. So we gutted the house to the studs. I'm putting close to $1,000 a foot into this house because, like, I want to be a creative person. The problem with residential is being creative is very expensive.
Yeah.
Like marble slabs and this finish and that finish and the door handles and the flooring type, and we're building like a second floor jacuzzi overhanging a pond, like all this dysfunctional stuff because I want to be creative. Like, my kitchen's costing me $300,000. Like, you're throwing out these kinds of money where, like, for $300,000 I can remodel an entire shopping center with ease. And I give a lot of credit for residential developers. It's not that easy.
No,
it is. It's really not.
Yeah.
And these cities are mad and they're slow and it's depressing.
Yeah, LA building here right now is just, it's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
I want to share something that's changing the game for agents. If you haven't heard about Sign More yet, listen up. Real estate has never been more 24/7. And with leads and clients calling around the clock, being available to capture every opportunity is core to growing your business. And trust me, you don't want to rely on voicemail. You want to show that you care, and the best way to do that is by having a real person answering your phone. That's where Sign More comes in. Day or night, your business is supported by property receptionists answering your calls, qualifying your leads, and scheduling your appointments. Along with 5-star service from real people, Sign More comes with a range of leading technology. This includes a mobile app, CRM integrations, live chat widget, appointment scheduling software, and my personal favorite, your own business number so you can keep your personal number private. As a sponsor of this podcast, I got a promo for all of you listening right now. Go to signmore.com/Aaron. That's signmore.com/Aaron, AARON, to get 30% off your first 3 months on Sign More's best value plan.
So, doing the Carbon Beach house, what's next for Robert Rivani? Like, I know you're now living in Miami. You're selling this place in Beverly Hills. What's on the horizon for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a mixed bag of everything. I always try to stick to what I know best, but with the market's always constantly changing. Me buying a house out of nowhere on Carbon Beach was completely out of left field for the company, but just continuously expanding in an intelligent way in a volatile market. For me, I love recessions. Like, I'm like giddy right now.
Yeah.
It's like people
It's
are like,
your
oh,
time
the
to
market.
shine.
It's like my time to shine,
Yeah.
baby. Like, let's do this. Like,
Yeah.
this is exciting. So growing the hospitality part of the business, which is really big. We just last week bought a deal from the King of Qatar, which is really exciting to be able
Congrats.
to do a deal with
Yeah, that's awesome.
something that's awesome.
Yeah.
So blowing up the hospitality brands throughout South Florida, that's one part of the business that I'm super excited about. The big power centers and shopping centers, which was my bread and butter. Residential homes, I don't know, man. It's after this experience, it's been kind of tough. But the future is, growing the social brand is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Continuously that, because that opens up doors. Like us sitting here right now, we would have probably never met if it wasn't for social media.
Yeah.
And it's continue opening up those doors, TV shows, maybe building my own hotel, something along those lines, fashion line, wherever the world will take me.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Pleasure meeting you. I will
Thank you, buddy.
definitely be following your journey.
I appreciate it. You got to come out to Miami and see how it's better than LA.
Absolutely. No, shoot, I love Miami. I visit whenever I can. It's been a minute, but yeah, LA is not the easiest place to live in right now, but look, this is home. I stand by LA, and we'll see how long that lasts. But
Hey, man. Appreciate the time, brother.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks.